Is my hair good? It's all good.
Because I'm from the States, you don't grow up with the same understanding of the royal family.
Well, that's just not true.
I didn't know much about him.
Well, that's just not true. I'm not sure exactly what the outcome will be, but definitely not good.
Is Meghan Markle, one of the loudest, boldest, most unfiltered public figures of this generation, suddenly fall completely silent when it comes to the most explosive royal scandal of the century? The question becomes even sharper when whispers, rumors, and offhand accusations begin swirling in dark corners of interviews. Claims that Meghan once moved in circles far closer to the Epstein world than anyone ever imagined. Why else, they argue, would Virginia Roberts even mention her name as a potential witness? Why else would Meghan appear in conversations tied to a scandal she has never publicly acknowledged? For years, Meghan's entire image has been built on confrontation, challenging sexism, calling out bullying, exposing abuse of power. She branded herself as a protector of women who don't have the platform to speak. Then suddenly, silence. When the world turned toward the storm surrounding Prince Andrew and the monstrous shadow of Jeffrey Epstein, Meghan didn't post, didn't tweet, didn't comment, didn't even hint at awareness. It wasn't just quiet, it was freezing, controlled, almost surgical, as if the silence itself was engineered. Some critics go further, repeating shocking accusations, insisting Meghan had history in worlds she never publicly acknowledged. They claim she's shielded not for who she is, but for who may have opened doors for her long before she met Harry. Supporters assumed she stayed quiet out of respect for the monarchy, or simply didn't want to interfere. But that theory collapses instantly. She never hesitated to speak about alleged racism inside the palace. She never paused before challenging press cruelty. She never blinked before exposing the emotional hell she said she endured behind royal walls. So why did she go mute exactly when the institution she criticized faced its darkest crisis? The answer isn't gentle, and it isn't accidental. Some voices claim she was never just an outsider who married into royalty, but a woman who understood exactly who helped her rise. Others believe those connections are exactly why documents remain sealed and names blacked out. Meghan's silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. And the deeper you dig, the more eerie it becomes. Because when Meghan speaks, headlines ignite. And sometimes the wrong sentence can set fire to an entire establishment. But here's the twist: what happens when silence becomes even more dangerous than words? Because people like Meghan Markle and figures like Epstein don't simply appear out of thin air in the same news cycles. And when they do, it often means someone placed them there. Meghan built her early career on confronting ugly truths, calling out inequality, demanding accountability, urging women to break the silence imposed on them. Long before she stepped into royal life, she presented herself as a warrior against corrupt power. Which is why, when Prince Andrew's connection to Epstein detonated globally, everyone assumed Meghan would be the first royal figure to acknowledge it. She had the voice. She had the platform. She had the history, but instead of speaking, she vanished. No comments. No podcast references. No soft mentions in interviews. Nothing. It felt less like avoidance and more like erasure, as if the topic had never existed. The strangest part? During that same period, she unleashed fiery commentary on race, mental health, royal culture, and media attacks. She took on the monarchy itself, yet she refused to touch the scandal threatening to consume it. Then came the bombshell, claims that Ghislaine Maxwell had crossed paths with Meghan. That Virginia Roberts named her because she might have known more than she ever admitted. Meghan's supporters tried to fill the silence with excuses, but none of them survived scrutiny. This wasn't fear. This wasn't distraction. This was chosen disappearance. People began asking whether she was protecting herself or protecting someone else. Inside the royal system, silence isn't a suggestion. It's a rule carved into stone. Every royal mouth is controlled, every sentence filtered, every public statement weighed like a national security decision. When the Epstein scandal erupted, the palace moved into lockdown. Their only goal: contain the damage. They issued a hardline command: no royal, past or present, must comment on Epstein. Not one word, not one hint. especially not from Meghan, whose candidness made her the single biggest threat to the palace's fragile containment plan. Rumors swirled that behind closed doors, Meghan had been instructed to adopt a codename, Flower, a calculated persona meant to convey softness, innocence, a woman untouched by the chaos swirling around her. Critics twisted that into something darker, arguing it was a mask for someone with a far more complicated past. Regardless of the truth, the instructions were ironclad. Avoid the topic at all costs, decline every question, shut down interviewers instantly, and take the Epstein scandal to the grave. While she remained a working royal, Meghan had no choice. The crown didn't request her silence, it demanded it. But then she left. And the moment she stepped off palace grounds, the leash snapped. No more protocol. No more advisors. No more scripts. She was free to speak. Yet the silence remained louder, heavier, more chilling than before. Which leads to the next twist, Hollywood. When Meghan and Harry signed their multi-million-dollar deals, their team crafted a new identity, one built on empowerment, healing, celebrity elegance, and polished narrative control. But mentioning Epstein would permanently stain that new image. Her interviews were engineered to shape a comeback, the Oprah special, the podcasts, the Netflix series. Every topic was allowed: racism, trauma, media manipulation, royal betrayal. But Epstein? Absolutely off limits. Her silence wasn't royal protocol anymore, it was brand protection. Still, cracks formed. At one point, a streaming executive brought up the Epstein subject during a private meeting. What followed sent panic through every level of their PR machine. Because the truth was clear. If Meghan ever addressed the scandal, even cautiously, it could overshadow every other part of her story. When Prince Andrew officially became the face of the scandal, the monarchy's entire ecosystem went into crisis mode. It was no longer about gossip. It was about the survival of a centuries-old institution. Any comment from Meghan, especially from someone already positioned as the monarchy's biggest critic, could have lit a fuse no one could control. And so the silence continued stronger, sharper, and far more calculated than before. Breaking into that upper circle, the one that feeds directly into the royal bloodstream, isn't just difficult. It's nearly impossible. You don't simply meet your way into the monarchy. You need connections layered through connections, a chain of introductions only unlocked by people already living inside those rarefied rooms. Yes, Meghan had acquaintances in that world. Yes, she had proximity. But the real question, the one nobody wants to ask, is how she crossed the final threshold. And every trail, every whisper, every quiet theory loops back to the same place, Soho House, and billionaire power player Ron Burkle. From the palace's vantage point, Meghan even glancing in Epstein's direction, let alone acknowledging the horror of what happened, would be nuclear. If she hinted the silence felt wrong, the palace would look complicit. If she showed empathy for the victims, reporters would demand royal accountability. Meghan didn't need to blame anyone. Her voice alone could detonate the narrative. And so the unspoken truth settled like dust. Meghan wasn't shielding Andrew. Her silence was shielding the monarchy itself. Ironically, even after walking away from royal life, she still carried that burden with her. Breaking the silence wouldn't just endanger the royal brand, it would drag Meghan into a scandal she had no involvement in. Yet, there was one moment when she nearly spoke. One moment when the door cracked open and everything spiraled. The turning point emerged when a major US network pitched a primetime documentary about the modern monarchy's fractures. On paper, it wasn't about Epstein, at least not openly. They wanted Meghan to discuss palace pressure, archaic politics, and what it meant to be a woman inside an institution built on ritual secrecy. It seemed harmless, maybe even empowering. She could reclaim her narrative, champion women's stories, reinforce her identity outside the crown. Conversations began. Early scripts circulated. Her team explored which themes felt fresh without repeating Oprah-era revelations. And then, during one routine planning call, a single question shattered the illusion of safety. If the documentary touches on royal crises brought silence. Shock. Confusion.no1 had prepared for that question. The network wanted impact, and you can't discuss royal scandals without Andrew's name. If Meghan refused, she'd seem evasive. If she agreed, she'd be tied to the scandal forever. There was no path that didn't lead straight into fire. Her team recognized the truth instantly. This wasn't an opportunity. It was a trap disguised as one. Within days, negotiations collapsed. Meghan's side withdrew before ink ever touched the contract. What audiences never saw was what happened next. Word of the nearly approved documentary leaked back to the palace. And when it did, tension inside royal walls surged to a level Meghan never imagined. Even though she declined the project, the idea that she had been considered for a program that might reference Andrew ignited panic. Not since the Oprah interview had the palace felt this exposed. At the center of that fear stood Prince William. For years, he lived under the shadow of Andrew's scandal, not out of brotherly loyalty, but because he understood the threat it posed to the monarchy he is destined to lead. William saw Meghan as unpredictable, fiercely outspoken, and dangerously skilled at capturing global attention. The notion that she might speak, even indirectly, about accountability terrified him. All it would take was one sentence, one gentle suggestion that silence was morally wrong. And the carefully constructed wall protecting the royal narrative would disintegrate overnight. Harry, caught between two worlds, felt the weight differently. He knew Meghan needed to safeguard her voice after years of being silenced. But he also understood the responsibility crushing his brother, the desperate need to preserve an institution already under siege. Their divide wasn't personality. It was destiny. William believed silence preserved the crown. Harry believed transparency protected the woman he loved. And Meghan? She never intended to threaten the monarchy, but her voice carried enough power to destroy it more swiftly than any journalist ever could. That realization hit all three of them differently. And for the first time, Meghan wasn't deciding for herself alone. She was choosing between two futures, the life she was building in America and the royal world she walked away from, but was still entangled with. What she ultimately chose explains everything about her silence and why it may never break. After the palace's unspoken pressure, Hollywood's branding strategy, Andrew's lasting fallout, the fragile truce between two brothers, and the monarchy's fight for survival, Meghan's quiet becomes understandable in a way headlines never captured. She isn't silent because she's indifferent. She isn't silent because she's afraid. She's silent because she recognizes that a single sentence at the wrong moment could unleash a storm that destroys everyone, including people she still cares about, no matter how complicated those ties have become. When silence becomes the only option that prevents irreversible damage, breaking it stops being bravery and becomes destruction. Whether Meghan ever addresses this subject publicly rests in the future's hands. But one thing is absolute: if she ever does, the world won't simply listen. It will freeze. If you're still here, you're not just watching royal drama. You're decoding patterns, power structures, and the invisible battles shaping every headline. And if you want to dig deeper into Meghan Markle's ascent inside elite social circles, don't miss our previous video, the one that unpacks her early Soho House years.